Yeah.
Ancient Sumer, when you look at their tablets and like what are they saying and why would they dedicate so much time to talking about this stuff?
Exactly.
For years, ancient Sumerian tablets sat silent, their secrets hidden in clay. But now, I just translated ancient texts, and what it revealed shocked all mankind. Could these texts change everything we know about human history? What shocking truths were buried for thousands of years? Join us as we uncover the details of this shocking discovery. The Sumerian secret of our beginnings. Long before modern science tried to explain where humans came from, the ancient Sumerians wrote a story that still leaves people speechless today. It's not just a tale about gods and chariots in the sky. It's a story about us, about how we began, and why we exist. Their clay tablets, carved thousands of years ago, speak not in riddles, but in bold claims. They didn't say humanity appeared by chance or slow evolution. They said we were created, deliberately, with purpose, and under strange circumstances that sound almost like science fiction today. In the land of Sumer, one of the earliest civilizations known to man, stories were told of powerful gods called the Anunnaki, who ruled the heavens. Beneath them were the Igigi, lesser gods burdened with endless labor, digging, carrying, and maintaining the world. After endless toil, these Igigi grew tired and rebelled. Chaos broke out in the heavens, and the Anunnaki suddenly faced a problem. They needed workers, but instead of forcing their kind back to work, they decided to create a new being. One that could think, obey, and endure physical labor. That's when the idea of mankind was born. According to these ancient tablets, the Anunnaki crafted humans from a blend of clay and what they called a divine essence. This essence was their secret ingredient, the spark that made humans more than just mud and water. The first creation was named Adamu, a being who would later sound very familiar to those who read other holy books. But the first versions of humans were far from perfect. They couldn't reproduce, lacked intelligence, and failed at their main purpose, sustaining the work the gods no longer wanted to do. So the creators tried again and again, making adjustments, refining, improving, until humans finally became capable of surviving, multiplying, and following orders. When you read this with modern eyes, it feels strangely familiar to a laboratory experiment. Ancient words like essence mixture and prototype sound less mythical and more mechanical, almost as if the Anunnaki were ancient scientists rather than celestial beings. Artificial intelligence tools used today to decode these ancient languages have begun to pick out terms that resemble modern genetic language, phrases hinting at fusion, experimentation, and replication. Some researchers even link this to a modern mystery in human biology: the sudden fusion of chromosome 2, something unique to humans and unexplained by normal evolution. Could this be the genetic signature of ancient intervention? Mainstream science disagrees, but curiosity remains alive. And then there's the most mysterious part of all, the legend of Nibiru.
And Zecharia Sitchin's work was like the most controversial on the Sumerian text. When he starts talking about it, when you read some of the things that they wrote.
Zecharia Sitchin, a scholar of Sumerian texts, proposed that the Anunnaki came from this distant planet, one that orbits the sun once every 3,600 years. He claimed they first arrived around 450,000 years ago and visited Earth many times since, each time influencing human progress or destruction. Whether Nibiru truly exists or not, the Sumerians did record incredible events that seem connected to the heavens: massive floods, blazing skies, reversed rivers, and strange lights above. Were these signs of a visiting planet, or simply how ancient people described natural disasters they didn't understand? No one knows for sure. The Sumerian records go even deeper with the king list, a mysterious tablet that documents their rulers and how long they reigned. What makes it so strange is the numbers. The earliest kings supposedly ruled for tens of thousands of years, one for 28,000, another for 36,000. Later kings ruled for shorter periods, hundreds instead of thousands of years, before reigns eventually became normal. Historians often dismiss these exaggerated numbers as symbolic, ways to glorify rulers and show divine power. But some researchers think otherwise. What if these early rulers weren't fully human at all? What if they were hybrids? Part God, part human. Beings designed to live far longer than us. Archaeology has added fuel to this mystery. When Queen Puabi's tomb was opened in the ancient city of Ur, her remains and those of her attendants revealed something puzzling. Puabi's skull was unusually shaped, not artificially altered like in some cultures, but naturally elongated. Around her were skeletons of unusually tall individuals, some over 7 feet tall, far beyond average Sumerian height. Were these simply rare genetic traits, or remnants of a race that once mixed with beings not entirely human? The evidence raises more questions than answers. What's even more curious is that the Sumerians were obsessed with purity of bloodlines. Their records mention the seed of Anu, referring to the divine father of the gods. The people believed this bloodline needed to remain unbroken. Royal marriages were arranged to preserve it, and laws enforced the rule. This obsession wasn't unique to Sumer. Across the world, ancient civilizations followed the same pattern. Egyptian pharaohs claimed descent from gods and often married within their own families to keep that divine blood pure. The Inca rulers said they were children of the sun. Even Tibetan traditions recognize spiritual rulers as reincarnations of divine beings. But it was in Sumer that this concept was first written down and preserved in stone. Beyond creation and kingship, the tablets also warned of cycles, periods of rise and fall, prosperity followed by catastrophe. They described massive floods, droughts, and plagues that came again and again. For centuries, these stories were thought to be myths, but modern science has found records of real disasters matching their timelines, such as the 4,200-year drought that led to the collapse of entire empires. The Sumerians described such events with poetic intensity, rivers flowing backward, red skies, and the land turning to dust. Today, artificial intelligence is uncovering patterns hidden in those ancient records. It matches their descriptions with geological and astronomical data. What once seemed like fantasy is now being re-examined as coded history. The ancient scribes might have been recording real cosmic or environmental phenomena they didn't fully understand. Imagine standing thousands of years ago under a red sky, watching the rivers dry up and stars shift in strange ways. Would you not think the gods were angry? But where was this place called Sumer, and how did it come about? The world beneath the gods. Long before the rise of great empires like Egypt or Greece, the Sumerians built their world on the muddy plains between two mighty rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates. This region, later called Mesopotamia, was both a blessing and a curse. Each year, the rivers flooded the land, leaving behind rich soil that made farming possible. Yet the floods could also destroy homes overnight. For the Sumerians, this unpredictable balance between creation and destruction felt like the hand of the gods themselves. Life in Sumer revolved around this fragile harmony. The people built vast cities such as Uruk, Ur, and Nippur, each one guarded by its own patron deity. Towering above these cities were the ziggurats, massive step temples that reached toward the heavens. From their peaks, priests performed rituals to communicate with the gods. To the Sumerians, the ziggurat wasn't just a building. It was a ladder between heaven and earth, a sacred meeting point where divine energy could touch human life. In these cities, religion wasn't something practiced once a week. It was woven into every heartbeat of daily life. Farmers prayed to the gods before planting their crops. Merchants offered sacrifices before long journeys. Kings ruled by divine permission, claiming that their power came directly from heaven. The gods weren't distant beings sitting on clouds. They were living presences in every field, river, and breath of wind. The people believed that humans were created to serve the gods, not out of punishment, but purpose. Their duty was to care for the earth, offer prayers, and maintain order, reflecting the balance of the divine realm. When the fields thrived and the rivers stayed calm, it meant the gods were pleased. But when storms raged or drought struck, it was a sign of divine anger, a warning that balance had been broken. Temples were more than places of worship. They were the heartbeat of each city. Inside, scribes recorded offerings on clay tablets, musicians played hymns, and priests interpreted dreams believed to be messages from the gods. Every ritual, no matter how small, was a conversation between the mortal and the divine. Even ordinary people felt connected to the cosmic drama unfolding above them. The Sumerians didn't just build cities, they built a spiritual civilization. Their myths were reflections of the world they lived in, unpredictable, mysterious, and full of wonder. So, which civilization created these ancient texts that AI have been trying to decode for decades? Let's find out. When the Sumerians built the first world, what if the story of civilization didn't begin the way we've always imagined? Long before the pyramids, before ancient Greece, and before Rome rose from its hills, there was another place, a mysterious land between two great rivers. About 6,000 years ago, in the region we now call Iraq, something extraordinary happened. Out of the dust and heat of Mesopotamia, a civilization appeared almost overnight. The people who built it called themselves the Black-Headed Ones. We know them today as the Sumerians, the people who may have built the first real world. Now, most cultures took thousands of years to rise from small tribes to kingdoms. They learned slowly how to farm, build, write, and govern. But in Sumer, everything seemed to happen all at once. Villages that once traded grain suddenly grew into cities with walls, temples, and rulers. Places like Eridu, Ur, and Uruk sprang from the plains like a miracle. Streets appeared, marketplaces buzzed, and towering temples known as ziggurats reached toward the skies. It was as if someone had flipped a switch and turned chaos into order. What made this possible was something as simple and humble as mud. The Sumerians saw value where others saw dirt. They mixed it with water, shaped it into bricks, and baked it under the blazing sun. With these bricks, they built entire cities, homes, walls, temples, and workshops. They even used clay for trade tokens and vessels. Out of this same clay, they invented writing, something that changed the world forever. Using a sharpened reed, they pressed wedge-shaped marks into soft tablets, creating what we now call cuneiform. It began as a way to count goods and record trades, but it quickly grew into much more. With writing, they recorded royal decrees, contracts, songs, myths, and prayers. For the first time, memories could last beyond a lifetime. Knowledge no longer depended on a storyteller's voice. It was carved into clay and left for the future. Their brilliance didn't stop at writing. When they started recording numbers, they didn't choose the simple systems others used. They built a base 60 system, and that decision still shapes our world today. 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour, 360 degrees in a circle. Their sense of time, order, and mathematics laid the foundation for the way we measure and live our daily lives. But the deeper scholars dug into their tablets, the stranger their discoveries became. Between notes about grain shipments and beer recipes, they found things that didn't fit. There were records of ritual medicine, descriptions of the stars, and words that seemed to describe scientific ideas long before modern science existed. Thousands upon thousands of these clay tablets now sit in museums around the world. Some cracked, some nearly perfect. Each carries messages from the world's first writers, but reading them was a challenge. Each sign could mean several different things depending on its placement. A single tablet might hold more than 1,000 symbols. For centuries, only a handful of experts could even attempt to read them. Then came artificial intelligence, and everything changed. In Germany, researchers began using machine learning to digitally piece together broken tablets. It was like solving a puzzle that had been shattered for 5,000 years. At first, the AI could only match small fragments. But soon, it began recognizing patterns, identifying handwriting, and comparing texts from different regions and centuries. By the year 2023, teams in Israel developed an AI system that could translate Akkadian, one of the languages written in cuneiform, into English almost instantly. What once took years of study could now be done in hours. Ancient words began to come alive again. It was as if humanity had built a time machine using code. And right as this technology advanced, new discoveries were made. In northern Iraq, at a site called Kurd Khalistan, archaeologists unearthed tablets in near-perfect condition, dating back around 1,800 years before Christ. Even more astonishing, they appeared to be copies of older, possibly original records. Around the same time, at another site, Girsu, over 200 untouched tablets and 60 engraved cylinder seals were found inside bitumen-lined containers, preserved from moisture and decay. These texts mentioned events from the dawn of Sumer itself, possibly the earliest human history ever written. By the year 2025, researchers at Würzburg University took AI even further. Their tools could now detect idioms, humor, technical language, and complex meanings that had puzzled experts for decades. What they found made history even stranger. Those odd astronomical notes weren't just ancient stargazing. They contained precise records of planetary movements, solar solstices, and even hints of the Earth's axial precession, a slow wobble in our planet's rotation that scientists only fully explained in modern times. How could people 6,000 years ago have known such cosmic details? The data suggested that the Sumerians had been tracking the heavens with a level of skill that rivaled much later civilizations. But their wisdom reached beyond the stars. The tablets revealed a deep understanding of medicine. They wrote about cleaning wounds with antiseptics, monitoring pulse rhythms, and caring for infections. Some texts even recorded family health patterns that hinted at an awareness of hereditary traits, something not scientifically defined until many thousands of years later. And then came one of the most stunning revelations of all. Some tablets described copper and iron containers immersed in acidic liquids. The words used, spark, glow, and current, sounded remarkably similar to the principles of electricity. Centuries later, archaeologists would find an artifact known as the Baghdad Battery, believed by some to have been an ancient electrical device. Could the Sumerians have experimented with electricity long before it was rediscovered in modern times? Perhaps by accident, perhaps intentionally, but the resemblance was undeniable. Yet not all discoveries were about progress. Some writings spoke of destruction, of burning stones that scorched the earth and poisoned the land. These stones were said to have been buried deep to prevent harm. Scientists today know of desert glass, areas where sand has fused into glass under extreme heat, possibly from meteor impacts or unknown ancient explosions. Were these burning stones poetic metaphors or real accounts of catastrophic events? No one can say for sure, but the resemblance is haunting. The mystery deepened further with mentions of the Anunnaki, powerful beings described in early Sumerian myths. In traditional stories, they were divine judges who governed the earth and sky, but in modern theories, especially those made famous by Zecharia Sitchin, they are described as visitors from a distant planet called Nibiru, arriving 400,000 years ago. According to this theory, they came to Earth in search of gold and, to assist with mining, engineered humans through genetic manipulation.
According to interpretations of the Sumerian tablets, the gods were called the Anunnaki. What we're looking at here is a Sumerian tablet flanked by divine beings. You can see here the Anunnaki on each side.
For many, this sounds far-fetched. Yet the more AI deciphers the ancient texts, the harder it becomes to dismiss them as mere fantasy. Some passages mention energy vessels, sealed chambers with breathable air, and codes of creation. The words sound strangely technical, as if describing tools, machines, or scientific methods hidden beneath layers of myth. Could these have been symbolic ways to describe forgotten technologies, or memories of real encounters the ancients tried to explain in their own language? The deeper AI searches, the thinner the boundary between myth and science becomes. Each decoded line peels away another layer of mystery, revealing a civilization far more advanced and aware than we ever imagined. The Sumerians were not just farmers or temple builders. They were thinkers, observers, and recorders of the cosmos. They looked to the stars, studied their movements, measured time, healed the sick, and maybe even harnessed energy in ways still unknown. The ancient gods. Long before modern religions, before written history was even a concept, the ancient land of Sumer birthed a divine empire unlike any other. Hidden beneath clay tablets and buried ruins lies a pantheon so vast and mysterious that even today, we've only uncovered fragments of their stories. These weren't just gods of thunder or harvest. They ruled every breath of wind, every spark of thought, and every corner of creation. What if the ancients weren't merely telling stories, but preserving something far deeper? At the heart of this celestial hierarchy stood Enlil, the mighty lord of the air and storms. His myth begins with a moment of cosmic wonder. He separated heaven from earth, bringing structure to a chaotic universe. Enlil was not just a god of weather. He governed agriculture, kingship, and even the sacred laws that bound the world together. He was worshipped in a colossal temple called Ekur in the city of Nippur, where no other deity dared to meet his gaze. To his people, Enlil was the divine ruler of existence, a power too immense to comprehend. Then came Enki, the god of wisdom, freshwater, and creation. Known for his cleverness and inventive spirit, Enki was the thinker, the dreamer, and the trickster among the gods. He defied his own father, reshaped the earth, and is said to have given humanity knowledge, creativity, and magic. In many ways, Enki was the universe's first scientist, crafting balance through intellect rather than force. Beside him stood his sister, Gatumdu, the goddess of healing and fertility. Her name may be forgotten by most, but her presence was once felt in every home. Women called upon her during childbirth. Families prayed to her for good health and long life. She represented the gentle strength of compassion, a contrast to the warring gods that often filled the heavens with chaos. Then there was Inanna, later known as Ishtar, the goddess who embodied love, war, and ambition. Fierce and untamed, she symbolized beauty and power in perfect harmony. Her emblem, an 8-pointed star, glittered across ancient temples. In one of her most famous myths, she ventures into the underworld, seeking to rule even there. Stripped of her glory and left lifeless, she is eventually revived, at the cost of her husband's life. Many believe her tale mirrors the cycle of death and rebirth, a poetic explanation of the changing seasons. The sun god Utu, also called Shamash, brought light and justice to the world. As he crossed the sky each day, he revealed the truth and punished deceit. His light was seen not only as warmth, but as moral clarity. His twin sister Nanna, the goddess of the moon, was equally important. She guided time and cycles, her gentle glow marking months and festivals. Remarkably, one of history's first known writers, a woman named Enheduanna, was her high priestess. Through hymns and devotion, she immortalized Nanna's divinity in words that still survive thousands of years later. Among the lesser-known deities was Ninmah, Enlil's scribe and a healer of both gods and humans. She recorded divine decrees, assisted in the creation of mankind, and preserved sacred knowledge.
They created man according to the Sumerian text. They created Adam and Eve. How interesting that the Bible will echo the story, but talk about it in terms of God.
Imagine a goddess who served as both midwife and librarian of the cosmos, a guardian of divine wisdom often hidden behind grander names. Deeper still in these myths lay An, the Sky Father, and Kai, the Earth Mother. Together they formed the foundation of existence itself. Their union produced Enlil, symbolizing the merging of heaven and earth. Some stories portray their connection as more than divine love, a metaphor for life's unity, the blending of creation and nature into one harmonious rhythm. The legends also speak of Anzu, a colossal bird-like being who dared to steal the tablets of destiny, objects holding the very blueprints of the universe. His theft brought chaos among the gods, until a warrior deity, either Ninurta or Marduk, depending on the version, defeated him and restored order. This tale shows that even in heaven, power could be challenged, and balance had to be fought for. As time passed, the Sumerian pantheon expanded into hundreds of gods. By the era of Babylon, over 300 divine beings filled the heavens, each linked to an aspect of life or nature. Some ruled cities, rivers, or stars. Others governed specific winds, marshes, or springs. Many of these names remain half-erased, lying hidden in museum tablets, waiting for someone to rediscover their forgotten stories. Understanding these myths, however, is not as simple as reading a book. Most of what we know comes from broken tablets scattered across deserts and buried in temples. Scholars spend years piecing together fragments, matching symbols, and translating difficult languages. The ancient writing, known as cuneiform, was incredibly complex. A single syllable could be written in dozens of ways. And as Sumerian evolved into Akkadian and then Babylonian, meanings shifted, making every interpretation a challenge. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.